Okay, hello. Today is the 21st of May, 2023, and we'll pay homage to a very important architect and designer, Marcel Breuer, 1902-1981. So let's read a little bit about him. Marcel Laios Breuer, born, as you can see, on the 21st of May, 1902, and that's the reason we talk about him today, because today is May 21st, was a Hungarian-American architect and furniture designer. He moved to the United States in 1937, so at 35, and became a naturalized American citizen in 1944. At the Bauhaus, he designed the Vasily chair and the Cesca chair. Well, before I read this, I have to say that at 18, he moved from Hungary to Germany in order to attend the Bauhaus as the youngest student. At the Bauhaus, he designed the Vasily chair and the Cesca chair, which the New York Times have called some of the most important chairs of the 20th century. Breuer extended the sculpture vocabulary he had developed in the carpentry shop at the Bauhaus into a personal architecture that made him one of the world's most popular architects at the peak of the 20th century design. His work includes art museums, libraries, college buildings, office buildings, and residences. Many are in a brutalist architecture style, including the former IBM Research and Development Facility, which was the birthplace of the first personal computer. He is regarded as one of the great innovators of modern furniture design and one of the most influential exponents of the international style. Well. This is a text from Wikipedia. I have some doubts about that international style, but Wikipedia loves the international style and all the time mentions it in their entries for various biographies. So you see here, he was called Laiko, between friends, the diminutive of his middle name. Breuer was born in Pech. I don't know if I pronounce well, not far from the frontier with Romania at all, to a Jewish family. He was forced to renounce his faith in order to marry Martha Erbs due to anti-Semitism in Germany at the time. So he was unconventional from the very beginning. He renounced his Jewish faith in order to marry, someone without problems. At the Bauhaus, Marcel Breuer left his hometown at the age of 18 in search of artistic training, and after a short period spent at the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna, became one of the first and youngest students at the Bauhaus, a radical arts and crafts school that Walter Gropius had founded in Weimar just after the First World War in 1919. He was recognized by Gropius as a significant talent and was quickly put at the head of the Bauhaus carpentry shop. Something our school should do too, if they see a student with talent, to promote him immediately, or her. Gropius was to remain a lifelong mentor for a man who was 19 years his junior. In my opinion, his later works, Marcel Breuer became a better architect than Walter Gropius. After the school moved from Weimar to Dessau in 1925, so we remember the Bauhaus was founded in Weimar in 1919, but in 1925 it moved to Dessau. Breuer returned from a brief sojourn in Paris to join other faculty members such as Joseph Albers, Vasily Kandinsky, and Paul Klee as a master, eventually teaching in its newly established Department of Architecture. So how old was Marcel Breuer in 1925? 23 years old, and he was promoted by Walter Gropius as a master in the newly established Department of Architecture. Bravo to Walter Gropius, because he promoted a man of talent, and this is something that other schools of architecture should do, and they don't do. Recognized for his invention of bicycle handlebar-inspired tubular steel furniture, Breuer lived off his design fees at a time in the late 1920s and early 1930s, when the architectural commissions he was looking for were few and far between. The structural characteristics of his wooden furniture show the influence of Dutch designers Gerrit Rietveld and Theo van Doesburg. He was known for such giants. He was known to such giants as Le Corbusier, as Mies van der Rohe, whose architectural vocabulary he was later to adapt as part of his own, but hardly considered an equal by them who were his seniors by 15 and 16 years. Despite widespread, sorry, I can't read this, it exasperates me, this Zoom thing which covers the first, it's unbelievable, it covers the first line and I cannot read it, but you can read it, I can't read it. Let me read, okay. Despite the widespread popular belief that one of the most famous of Breuer's tubular steel chairs, the Vasily chair, was designed for Breuer's friend Vasily Kandinsky, the great painter, it was not. Kandinsky admired Breuer's finished chair design, and only then did Breuer make an additional copy for Kandinsky's use in his home. When the chair was released in the 1960s, it was named Vasily by its Italian manufacturer, who had learned that Kandinsky had been the recipient of one of the earliest post-prototype units. It was Gropius who assigned Breuer interiors at the 1927 Weissenhof estate in Stuttgart. In 1928, he opened a practice in Berlin, devoted himself to interior design and furniture design, and in 1932, he built his first house, the Harnischmacher in Wiesbaden. The house was white with 2 floors and a flat roof. Part of it and the terraces rose freely on supports. In 1937, Gropius accepted the appointment as chairman at Harvard's Graduate School of Design in the United States, and again Breuer followed his mentor to join the faculty in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the United States. They had an intermezzo in Great Britain, both of them, Gropius and Breuer. The two men formed a partnership that was to greatly influence the establishment of an American way of designing modern houses, spread by the great collection of wartime students, including Paul Rudolph, Elliot Noyes, I.M. Pei, Ulrich Franzen, John Johansson, and Philip Johnson. One of the most intact examples of Breuer's furniture and interior design work during this period is the Frank House in Pittsburgh, designed with Gropius as a total work of art. That's what that German word means, Gesamtkunstwerk, the total work of art. And the 5 names there, well, there are actually 6, but I knew that there were the Harvard 5. Anyway, the Harvard students they all became very well-known architects. Breuer broke with his father figure Walter Gropius in 1941 over a very minor issue, but the major reason may have been to get himself out from under the better-known name that dominated their practice. Breuer had married a secretary, and after a few more years in Cambridge, moved down to New York City in 1946, so at 44, with Harry Seidler as his chief draftsman, who became a major architect in Australia, to establish a practice that was centered there for the rest of his life. He became a naturalized American citizen in 1944. This was the man, Marcel Breuer, so he died in 1981 at 79. Actually, I had more pictures. I don't know what happened to them. Yes, something happened. Anyway, this is as a young man, probably at the Bauhaus, but with a tie and the white shirt and all the rest, typing something, it seems. Here he is in the United States, an accomplished architect, smoking, though I hope he didn't kill him, that cigarette. And here he is as a young man with very fine shoes, if you ask me, in the Vasily chair, the Vasily Kandinsky chair that he himself designed. And we learned that, he didn't design it for his friend, but for Vasily Kandinsky, but later on it was named the Vasily chair or the Kandinsky chair because it's a catchy name, and beyond the brilliance of the design of the chair, it helped for marketing to call it the Vasily chair or the Kandinsky chair. Some drawings by Marcel Breuer. He's drawn, his sketches and so on. Maybe they are not so, unique, but his designs are, and we are going to see his major buildings. This is a book published on him, Marcel Breuer, Sun and Shadow, and I like the duality of them, and I think Le Corbusier would have liked it too. Okay, and now we enter into his built work, Marcel Breuer and the invention of heavy lightness. So we are in the realm of oxymorons or paradoxes, the heavy lightness, and this is the structure of a library he built. And indeed, it is a heavy lightness, but I think very, very inspiring because, this dramatic structural element is, could be seen as the tree of knowledge now. 10 modernist homes by Marcel Breuer that will leave you with a bad case of house envy. I found this wording on the web. Marcel Breuer's house in New Canaan, the first house he built for himself, 1947, 1948 in Connecticut. This is the house, but you have to understand this was before 1950, was immediately after the Second World War. So, the aesthetics were, thoroughly modern. This is the plan of the house. The first Marcel Breuer house. He built another one, maybe more than just another one. Now, the Gropius house in Lincoln, Massachusetts, 1937, 1938, so before the Second World War, he contributed because he worked together with Walter Gropius. Not bad. I mean, a very fresh modernist for 1937. So this is the house of Walter Gropius in the United States. Those built in Dessau we saw when we paid homage to Walter Gropius 2 days ago. The Geller house in Long Island, New York, 1944, 1946. Also Marcel Breuer. Here he is in front of the house. Must be nice now to have so many commissions appreciated. As opposed to other modernists, Marcel Breuer also employed stones, and this makes a difference. And also, raw concrete. So there is a vitalist force in his architecture, which some other modernists do not have. This sculpturalness of his architecture. You see this wall made of stone is quite expressive. Geller House 2, this is for the same family, but a different building altogether. From 1969. Now, was this shell of the roof built with the ferro cement, like in the chapel that we noticed, we looked at before? Maybe. New Canaan, Connecticut, Kniffin House. Now, maybe these houses do not look very spectacular, but you have to understand the time when it was built. 1947, so before 1950, immediately after the Second World War. His houses deserve attention, and as we read at the beginning, well, not quite at the beginning, but earlier, he built many houses, and yes, maybe they are a possible source of envy. Rufus Stillman Cottage in Connecticut. This one also rather dramatic. So the sculptural aspect of his architecture is to be noticed. I think it's quite a remarkable building. It's called a cottage, but it's if it is a cottage, it is a large cottage. Not bad. Marcel Breuer. The Museum of Modern Art Exhibition House in New York, he contributed to this exhibition in 1948, 1949, building a house in the courtyard of the Museum of Modern Art in Manhattan, in New York City. And you see the buildings of Manhattan behind, and you see the architecture he proposed, quite refreshingly modern. Caesar Cottage, Lakeville, Connecticut, 1952. Beautiful trees in front of the house. But the house also, in its simplicity, kind of goes with the trees. Gagarin House, that's not the Russian, astronaut. 1955, 1957, a large swimming pool, perhaps too large, but look at the sculpturalness of the hearth, of the fireplace. And you see on the left Vasily chairs. Another house, beach house. He built also remarkable public buildings, and we are going to arrive at them. These are just some of the houses he built. Marcel Breuer in the United States. But this one is in Switzerland, in Ticino, 1963, 1967. Again, what differentiates Marcel Breuer from other modernist architects is the fact that he was not shy to use sometimes, raw materials, stones or concrete. So there is a certain vigor, a certain viscerality, even in the simplest geometries that he uses. And that's, I think, a plus. And you see, he does it at the inside as well, the fireplace. So this is in Switzerland, it's not in the United States. Another house in Europe, in France, 1972, 1973. Interesting image of, his notations on the plans of the house. Marcel Breuer in France. The Bauhaus House, 1925, 1926, Dessau in Germany. He worked together with Walter Gropius. This was actually where Walter Gropius lived. I don't know if Marcel Breuer lived in the same house. This was built 1925, 1926 in Dessau in Germany. And this is how it looks like today. It was refurbished. Now we arrive at a very important public work by him, the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York City. This is the section, one of the sections through the building. Here we see again the sculpturalness of his architecture, the way he uses exposed concrete. And here he is in front of the giant window that honors the street. The Whitney Museum of American Art. Marcel Breuer. Now a monastery in North Dakota, the United States, 1963. Now, we remember now that when he was young or younger, he renounced his, faith in order to marry a lady he loved, and he worked, for Christian programs, although he was born in a Jewish family. But look at this work; is exquisite. It's an artwork in itself, in concrete. And it's sensitively done, but very vigorous at the same time. monastery. This almost looks like a social housing, and it would be interesting perhaps to compare it with La Tourette by Le Corbusier. Here he is. This is Marcel Breuer with the inhabitants of the monastery. Now a church and the bell tower in Collegeville, Minnesota, well-known building by Marcel Breuer. Again, here we see the drama of exposed concrete with the cross and the bells, and the dramatic roof inside the church. Heavy, it's true, but maybe that heaviness has its meaning. We remember what was written about him, the inventor of heavy lightness. Or should we say light heaviness? Exposed concrete both outside and inside, but also a large stained glass window, fragmented in these hexagons. It's an interesting work in a way. Very powerful, this gate and bell tower, if we are to call it so, sculptural, but its vigor is impressive. Concrete, exposed concrete. You see, a book was written on Marcel Breuer and the creation of a modern sacred space, St. John's Abbey Church. Not bad at all. Now, at the University Heights campus at New York, you are going to see another interesting building, this Bagridge Hall. So he was adventurous, he took risks. And again, the fact that he uses stone or used stone and exposed concrete, the tension between the two, and they create a richer tactile presence than just a sleek concrete, like in the case of Tadawando. I personally like this more because it is It's more about the complexities of life, and the polished, sleek concrete could distance ourselves from those complexities that I mentioned. And this is quite dramatic and sculptural. Another good work by Marcel Breuer. Atlanta Central Library. There are echoes from the Whitney Museum of American Art in Manhattan. So it was built between 1977 and 1980. As we remember, he died in 1981. Atlanta Central Public Library in Atlanta. St. John's University Alcuin Library, another library. This one also interesting. We already saw an image of the tree of knowledge, as I called it. Very powerful. You see very well the exceptionalism of such a structure, that it contradicts, the Cartesian system, and it brings in a surprise element which matters. And you see the structure is actually very coherent and even logical, but it is unexpected, because that's not what we would expect when we have we are trained to see things in a regular manner, and something that agitates that manner surprises us. It is this exalting element which is so important for architecture. And let's recall what Walter Gropius said in his manifesto, that both craftsmen and artists are rooted in craft, but the artist is an exalted craftsman. And here we see the exalted architect and the exalting structural element that brings something new, something novel in the building, and it's very possible it exalts other people. And so does the staircase, which is itself sculptural and a dynamic presence within the library. Factory building in Australia. This is not bad too either, in a surprising way. It has a purity, and yet it is convincing, even sculpturally, in a minimalist way. Well, here, the architectonic landscape is disturbed by those containers. This is less spectacular, but the first picture that we looked at, but even this building shows plus the expressionist distortions of this broken fence add something to the building, perhaps. It was not intention by Marcel Breuer, of course. A mega store or a kind of a mall in Rotterdam. This one interesting too. Look at the facade. Look at the treatment of the facade, which is ornamental but in a rather mysterious way. Well, this sculptural thing is not by him, but you see the building. It's, on one hand, he uses the hexagonal mesh, but then you see the insertions of those decorative elements, which makes the building stand out, even if maybe it's not one of his masterpieces. But it's very interesting what he managed to do with the elevation of the building because of this artistic intervention. And again, Marcel Breuer was a product of the Bauhaus, that school that enhanced creativity to the maximum. Bravo to him. UNESCO headquarters in Paris. He didn't work alone here. He worked with a French architect, I forgot his name, Rufus, I think, and then with Pierluigi Nervi, the great engineer, was probably responsible with the structure of this canopy over the entrance. But the building was designed by Breuer and the French architect, and together with Pierluigi Nervi, an engineer who was also an architect, considering the aesthetical qualities of his engineering. And the sculpture by a mobile by Alexander Calder, the great North American sculptor, who was actually trained as an engineer in Paris, Marcel Breuer. And an interesting exit stair or service stair outside of the building. Now we end the presentation on Marcel Breuer 120 years after he was born, on the 21st of May, with some examples of his furniture designs, because he was a major designer of furniture. First, we look again at this picture with him sitting on the Vasily chair that he created as a young man. In yes, I already declared my appreciation for his boots or shoes, aristocratic boots. The Vasily chair is this one, or the Kandinsky chair. We understood that the name was given by an Italian manufacturer after, some years after Gropius made, Marcel Breuer made this chair, and then Vasily saw it. Vasily Kandinsky was also a professor at the Bauhaus and liked it, so he asked Marcel Breuer to make another one for him, which he did. And yes, later on it became a very famous chair. But he also designed other pieces of furniture, as you can see. Bent wood. This one is a little bit unexpected from him, but still interesting, I would say. Wooden canvas. This makes one think of Alvarado. I'm actually a little bit puzzled if it is not by Alto. but it's bent wood, just like Alto used to have in some of his designs. Look at it, Marcel Breuer. A little bit more complicated than Alvar Aalto, but still appreciable design. This one also has some echoes from Alto, or Alto's designs have some echoes of Marcel Breuer. No, it's different. It's different, but it shows the playfulness of this designer, of Marcel Breuer. I wonder when he made this. I should check to see, a possible, connection, so to speak, with Alvar Aalto. And here he is. I don't know if he designed the chair or not, but who cares? He has different shoes than when he was younger. We remember he died at 79. And I think the last picture of this presentation is this one, yes, with a Vasily chair. And Günther Stolz, I think, sits on this chair. I don't know if I'm correct, but I think that's her on the famous Vasily chair that Marcel Breuer designed. So let's wish him happy birthday on the 21st of May, 2023, 121 years after he was born in Hungary. Thank you.